And shalom, 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 everyone. Shalom, shalom. Want to welcome everyone to King James Precept Mastery. I'm Elder Michael Johnson. 1 second, I want to get this turned off. 1 second. I want to get that clear. But however, we have one person here. Actually, I'm going to show it to you. Because what we got to make sure is we got to kill all false doctrine that comes up and the people that actually try to support that. So what I'm doing, we had this guy, Paul Brasfield, sitting there talking about what I don't know, and he talking about a bunch of stuff we don't know. So something I'm going to ask you that most people don't do is what? I'm asking you to where you guys actually like the video, to where it'll go out and also post this in other areas. Because I'm going to be on for a while until we get ready to do Romans. Because I'm looking for Paul. To make sure either Paul going to show up or he's going to be a waste of sperm like most people who in the false doctrine is, because they won't show up. So we're going to find out what's going on. And what I'm doing, I'm going to show you what's going on. Trying to get to it. Let me see. Trying to get to it. Because he actually trying to protect some people on something. But then if you guys look below there, you can also see that he have access to where he can get in the back of the class. To where he can get to us, he can get to me actually live. So he just been posting, and let me go here. And we're gonna see. And let me get to the one that he did. And this is the second one. And what we're going to do, we looking for him and seeing if we can find him. But let me pull this up, because what's going on is people going to still try to defend stuff, and then they'll think people just let it go. And the main thing is what I'm trying to make sure of. We're going to make sure that most people that we know and always will know that Enoch book is a false book, and the people who actually hold on to it is really sad. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pull this up, and I'm gonna go over here, and I'm gonna show you also him. That's why I put on here looking for Paul. That's why I have that. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna look at this, and let me see. I want to make sure. Let me pull up my other one. And let me make sure. And got one in the back. So I don't think that's him. Let me bring this up. I want to make sure this isn't him. And we got one in the back. I unmuted you to where you can talk. Now, are you Paul?
No.
Oh, okay. Good enough. How you doing today?
I'm all right. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing good. Okay, so let me pull it up. All right, appreciate it. So, what we doing? Let me pull this up now. Let me share my screen to where you can see what's going on. Because we trying to make sure we catch everyone who's doing this to bring them forward. Either they're going to come forward or they're just going to be quiet. Technically just be a waste of sperm. So this is what we're doing. So now we look in here, and he actually was talking to Tamika, but then he actually speaks over, he says, prove that the book of is written by Gentiles. So one, he asking, prove that the book is written by Gentiles. That's one. We're gonna pick him apart until he comes in. Then it says, otherwise you should maybe think about being quiet. Now, I'm gonna show you how stupid that is. So one, he want to prove that the book was written by Gentiles. So first, either he has proved this And he need to prove what he's saying, that this book was written by somebody else. So he need to be able to show that. That's something that shouldn't be to her. He need to be able to prove that that book was written by whoever he's saying it is. And it's clear. So this showing you really how unintelligent he is, because he's telling somebody else to prove that his book is not written by Gentiles, which if you go look in the front of the book, it'll tell you who wrote the book. It's common. I'll prove it. I'll show you. Common sense. However, he goes in, then he says, trust me, this guy don't understand these books. No, because they're stupid and they actually don't make sense, and we prove the point. And it says, I never seen a so-called Hebraeus. Yeah, I'll show you why you didn't see that. And then that can barely read the English language. Interesting. And too much false pride in Israel. He's actually talking about himself. So let's go down. It says, this is the problem, that an angel or entity wasn't as tall as they say in Enoch. And it says that I'm through, so you are carnal and you don't even know it. Wow. So you're looking for him, want him to come on. So if not, I'm gonna also bring it up next week for the other book I'll be doing. But the main thing, what we want to do, we want to find him, and we trying to look for him. And we trying to wait to where we can get him. But so far, we don't have anything. But while we do that, I'm going to pull up a couple of things that we need to see. And let me do these searches. And we're gonna put a couple of things up. And we're gonna find out what this is. We're gonna check a couple of things. And let's see. To find out, because he never heard of what I say I am. And one is a profession, but that's beside the point. Okay. And let's go here. And we can get a few things here. No, I do not want that. So let's get it to where he can actually get it to it in a real easily way, is what I'm trying to make sure of. Okay. So let me share my screen to where we can get to this, to where he can understand, because he said he never. I show you. 1 second. So what he has here, I have a brass up, but he put here, I never ever seen a so-called Hebraeus that can barely read. So one, he don't even know what it is. So he don't know what it is. And then because I can guarantee you he never ran into one. However, let me show you what that is. And I actually don't like this word here, scholar, because scholar is so associated to Christian. So that's why technically I don't like that. Now it says we specialize, this is who it is, who specializes in the study of Hebrew. That's what a Hebraeus is. So, and then I go into detail and show you what they do. Then it goes on more, and it tell you, and we on free dictionary, you can go look at this up if you want. Then it says, for the most part, it says Hebraeus, languages. That's what they do. Person who studies the Hebrew language and culture. This is what I do. That's what I do as a profession. And it says people or persons who studies the Hebrew language and culture. Okay, they repeating the same thing, but technically what we do. Now, specializing, it specializes in the Hebrew language and the linguistics of it. So that's what we're specialists in. That's technically what I do. Now, as he said, he's still sitting there saying, I never ever seen a so-called Hebraeus, which I guarantee you never seen one or met one, and can barely read the English language. So what we need to understand is this. What a Hebraeus does is that where most people will hire them for studies, that's what they do. Because what they're going to do, they're going to go in and they're going to find out information that need to be retrieved. And some will do it based on the cultures. Some will do it based on the living ways that they were doing back then, or they will also have some that actually go into the Bible. That's what I do. And I go into the Bible and we pick it apart. Pick it apart meaning what? We don't go in with an understanding of trying to prove that it's true. We go in neutral and try to prove either it's true or it's not true. Meaning what? Based on the Hebraeus, we have to use precepts in the order of the instruction that is given out of whatever culture it is. So if they're going and they're looking at the lifestyle of what it is, then they have to find those ancient books, which is many of them out there. And then they have to use, based on precepts, the structure on how to find and make sure if this book is saying one thing and this other book is saying something else, then they bring in a couple of other books. And then they're going to try to find contradictions. So once they go through and say, for example, people ate hummus. We just use that. People ate hummus in the biblical time. Let's just use that. So they say Hebrews was eating hummus in the BC time. So now they go into some of these ancient books and they're going to look for when they was eating different things. That's what they're going to find out. Then they're going to see the different types of things that will be mentioned in there. If hummus was never mentioned, but then it's mentioned in this one book, now we got one book that's coming up kind of false. So what they're going to do now, they're going to do a deeper study, not on the books that's all agreeing. They're going to do a deeper study on the books that don't agree. And then they're going to go into a deeper study on that book. 9 times out of 10, that book going to come up false, because now they're going to find out every piece of that book that has anything that was said, and now they're going to look through it. They're going to dig deeper. That's what we do. So the same we do with the Bible. The Bible is structured on precepts. So we know that because the Bible will tell you it's structured on precepts. So what I do, I go into the Bible, not looking for what is true and what is false. I go through and try to find contradictions. And is there contradictions in the Bible? Because if it's a contradiction in the Bible, now I look at what is based on the lie. That takes us deeper to where we try to find the problem. Technically, for all these years, never found one. So this is what the problem is. Now, what he don't know is what I'm talking about. But what I'm looking for is for him to appear, because it, as I said, right below here, it has a class access and a password where he can easily come in. However, I'm pretty sure he's not going to come in. Why? Because he's pretty much just a hyena. And as I said, he's pretty much a waste of sperm. And why I say that, waste of sperm, because we have people who sit there and they speak behind a computer keyboard and just speak. But then when it's time to come forward, they choose not to. Why? Because they want to stay hidden. So, as I said, I'm very upfront. He's sitting there saying what we can't do and what I can't do. And I'm asking him to come forward. So right now, I'm looking for Paul. So if anybody sees Paul, please let Paul know I'm looking for him. And just tell Paul to come forward to where he can speak on his own behalf and defend this book he calls Enoch. Very simple. I give him the floor. And I guarantee you, because where he sits there, and actually, let me show it to you again, because he says something very specific. He says a couple of things very specific. He's sitting here telling you clearly, prove that the book is written by Gentiles. So I'm going to show you, you really don't know how silly that is, because now he's telling you to prove something that he believes in, but he can't tell you where it came from. People really need to think about that. You really need to think about what he is saying and who he's about. He's telling you out his own keyboard, prove that the book is written by Gentiles. Otherwise, you should maybe think about being quiet. That shows you just how stupid he is. 2, he says, trust me, this guy don't understand these books. Why should you understand a fairy tale to believe a fairy tale is true? That's what you also need to look at. Why? Because they have taken a book, and where he goes into this other problem, he says they wasn't as tall as it says in Enoch. So he's telling out his own mouth, Enoch, the book of Enoch lied. So we have to look at that, because it says, actually, I need to pull that up. Let me pull this book of Enoch up to where you can have it. And we're going to see, because I know they even have online. So that's what I'm going to try to pull up. The book of Enoch, let's see. The book of Enoch. Giant angels. So let me see. Because I forgot where it is in the book, so I got to actually research it to see it, to find it. Let me pull this up. Okay. Let's see. Let me see. Book of Enoch, Giant Angels. Let's see if we can get it that way. Hopefully we can get it that way. In Giants. Let's see. Book of Enoch 1. Let's see. We can probably get that. Hopefully so. Let me see. Let's see. We can probably find this. Let me see. I'm going to put in. It's not found, so it's not in this one. In Vortex, Book of Giants. I'm trying to find it. Let's see. I'm trying to find it. I'm trying to find it and see. And the main thing is, and this also what people really need to understand is this. See, you have people who will stand behind what they say. You have people who will make statements and don't stand behind what they say. And technically what he's doing. And I know he knows that we're on. This I do know. Okay, cubics, let me see. Let me see. Let me try to do it again. Because he's saying that he's making a statement saying that they wasn't as tall. Found one match. Where is it? Okay, got it. So now let's go back over here. Sorry about that, because I couldn't find it. I had to look for it. Because I'm telling you, these books was killing me. So now we're going to see this here, and we're going to look at what we're saying, which I can go really deep into this and show you the real stupidity in this book. Because even right here, presumptuous, see right here, that word wasn't even invented in the time of Enoch. Wasn't even on the scene. But that's beside the point. It says, and they became pregnant and bore large giants, and their height was 3,000 cubits. This is out the book itself. And they devoured all toils of men, and until men was unable to sustain them. And the giants turned against them in order to devour men. And they began to sin against birds and against animals and against reptiles and against fish. And they devoured one another's flesh and drank blood from them. Then the earth complained about the lawless ones. Now, this is the book itself. However, he says an angel or entity wasn't as tall as it says in Enoch. So Enoch says one thing, he's saying something else. So either you're going to believe him or you're going to believe the book of Enoch. So we see right there another argument, because he's going to sit there and he's going to convince you to say they're not as tall as what this says here. So you saying the book has an error? The book is unreal? This is the problem. So, and it says, real men and Most High step up. Yep, exactly the point. And yeah, he's tender. He's tender. But the main point of this here is that let me see. Hopefully that's him, because I see someone came in. So let me see who it is. And no one, not yet. So we got time. So what I want you to see is how that works. But the main thing is, and the reason why I'm crushing that, the way I'm doing what I'm doing now, and I'm gonna tell you why. And some stuff I don't explain, but I'm gonna explain why I'm doing what I'm doing. You get people like this, all they have to do is inject that little poison and put it on the page, because we're not going to get rid of it. We're going to leave it there. They'd inject that little poison, and somebody's out there going to read it and say, oh man, dang, this dude shut that down. This dude, oh man, and somebody's going to believe him. So what we do, we don't want none of that mess around here. So we checking him and we want him to come forward. That's why we do that. It's the same as you do a child. When you see your child do something wrong, what you do? You check your child. Why? Because you want to make sure they don't do that again. Same thing with Paul. See, he can come on later, whatever, but I will always be prepared to always go live with him. So that's what I'm making sure. That's what I'm making sure he knows. That anytime he want to discuss this book, I'm prepared to go live. So that's what's basically going on. And he's sitting here, there's so many problems that we have here that goes on with when people do this, is this here, you go back in here, he said, this is your problem. So now he's telling us this is our problem. Why? Our problem that we don't believe in this book. And all Enoch did is he pleased God, but now Enoch carried so much weight. He had control of angels and everything. He's walking around in heaven. So that lets us know you don't know the Bible, you know Enoch. Because the Bible don't speak, have no man ascended into heaven, but he who descended. It's common sense. The Bible tells you. But you believe that Enoch is rolling around being a shot caller. So you need to think, either you believe in your own hype, or you so caught up into it as what you're saying. You have too much false pride. Either that's you. It's not me. All I'm doing is exposing people who teach this type of stupidness. So again, we're waiting. We wait. We're gonna wait. We see. We wait. We see. And the main thing is, and he could be the one who keep putting up that one dislike, and same thing. Put up the one dislike, come in. Defend what you believe. Same as we said, we give you the floor. But however, never real talk. Because they don't want to talk. So we just wait. So we wait and we wait. And we'll see, because after about 8:30, I'm gonna go over to the other side and then get ready for my main studies. And right now we still don't have anything. So right now we will still, just as we wait. And this is one of the reasons why I'm going into the book of Jubilees. Now, I was also told about the book of Adam and Eve, and I was told about it's so much doctrine out there and so much silliness out there. We don't want nobody to get caught up. That's what we try to do. Make sure you don't get caught up in no silliness. And technically, this guy is trying to get people back into silliness. That's what he's trying to do. So with that, as we're waiting on him, and hopefully that he will show up, because I know he should know this, because I'm going to keep this video up and it'll be up afterwards. And it says looking for Paul. So as we're looking for Paul should show up. See, because one thing is that people sit there and make statements, but then they choose not to show up based on, if you're gonna post something, be prepared to back up what you're saying, because you can notice he didn't put no scriptures in there or no stuff about Enoch, but he's actually contradicting his own book, because he says they wasn't as tall as it says in Enoch. So how if they wasn't as tall as, so something Enoch said there Enoch that Enoch don't understand that he got, because they was 3,000 eels tall. 11,900 feet tall. I had another brother, he did his due diligence and he did a research, and he said, hey, my brother, I came up with 11,000, I think it was 250 feet tall. Okay. We both coming up with 11,000 feet. He came up with 200 feet shorter than, he came up with 250 feet. Mine came up with 200 and mine came up with 900. Now, wherever he pulled his research from, the cubics could have been changed at a different rate, which I'm not sure. And the one I could have been using could have been at a different rate. Now, where the resources where I went to go pull those cubics, mine could have been right or mine could have been off. Now, all the other resources I use, all of them came up with the 11,000 in different ones. But the reason I used the 900 feet, because more than 6 of them came up with 900 feet. That's why I used 900. Now, the brother that came up with the 250 feet, I don't know what type of research he might have did or where he went or how many he used, and he came up with 250. But for me to sit there to even try to start an argument with him on what he did, he could have did research, and he could have did research on 6 or 7 of them, and all 6 or 7 came up with 250. And so he said, hey, I'm coming up with 250. So he stayed with that. Now we can come to the medium, and he said, well, I came up with these, came up with those. Now we could have sat there and argued over the point. And then as we're going through it, but one thing we already moved to the side, 11,000, we got, that's solid. 11,000 feet is solid. Now we arguing over hundreds of feet. He could be right. I could be wrong. I could be right. He could be wrong. Because I don't know how he searched it, as he don't know how I searched it. So I'm not going to sit there and go against the brother and say, oh, no, brother, hey, it was 900 feet. I know I'm right. No, I don't know I don't know if he did research, and they look like I can pull him up. Let me see if I can find him. And I can show him to you and show you what he did. Cause yeah, actually I'm gonna pull him up. I'm gonna pull him up right now and show you. So who am I to sit there to say that this brother is wrong? Because we're pulling up the same thing. And it's this brother right here. So what he's saying is this: 3,000 eels is equivalent to 250 feet according to my research. But you see how he's saying he's not disrespecting anyone. He said according to my research. So according to what he researched, that's what he came up with. And then the 9,600 feet is only equivalent to 2,500 eels. So we know this brother did his homework. But who would I be to challenge this? I don't know what type of research he did. And just as I said, his research on this cubic thing with the eels, he could be right. And I'd be wrong to sit there and say, hey, brother, no, mine is right. No. If all his research came with that, and I think, he said, yeah. He said, we came up with a couple of 100 feet higher. However, the thousands is still correct. Same thing we've said. This 1,000 is still correct. Give or take a few hundred, but still, brother, when Elder shows up, shows these people, I'm trying to refute it, and that's all this talking about. So he's saying, great catch, though, bro. Yeah, so the same thing is, we don't have no, because we don't know what research he did, but he put in some work to do what he did. And still, he could be right. We don't know how many sites he went to. We don't know how many places where he pulled the equivalents from. Now, see, a lot of our stuff we pull from out of the country, but guess what? He could have pulled from out of the country and from one where they calculations was different than where we was pulling from. That's the only difference that's going between us. So we had to take our hat off to the brother because, we could sit there and argue over the 200, a couple of 100 feet, but actually just be kind of fun talking about, hey man, that still came over with this, he came. But other than that, he did his homework. So this brother, I appreciate when brothers do that and they do their homework and then they can come back saying, and as he said, and that's the thing. That's why I said, based on my research, that's what I came up with. But he said, based on my research, I came up with 250. So the only way we can really rectify that into where me and him can come, and I can guarantee you, me and him can come to a medium because I can go and ask him, okay, now what sites did you go to? And I can tell you sites I went to. And then we can match them. Then he might say, no, I didn't check those sites. And I'd say, I can check those sites. Then we can go into the details of them and see how valid those sites are. And his could be dead on, mine can be off, or his can be off and mine can be dead on. And that's it. And that's pretty much how that works. But brother did his work. But both of them got 11,000 feet. That's still the crazy part. So this brother, when you get back down to him, Paul, he says that an angel or entity wasn't as tall as it says in Enoch. Why is he laughing? That's it. I'm through. You're so carnal, you don't even know it. He don't know. He's so silly, he don't even know it. And all we asking Paul to do, come and explain it. You said right here, prove that the book is written by Gentiles. Paul, all we asking you to do is come in. You making statements, but we just asking you to prove your statement. That's all. That's all we doing. prove your statement, but for whatever reason, you choosing not to do so. So that's really weird, because many people who's into false doctrines and do things as such as this is what they will do. Will always make statements, but never try to back up their statements. They'll sit there and let me throw this out there, and I just leave it alone. And what I say is true. So that's part of the problem. And it says, yeah, they just be blowing smoke. So it's the same thing as I leave open for them and say most people don't know. Most times when I do teachings, and a lot of times I do it in Zoom. I do that for that reason. The reason I do that is to where if someone come in and they want to refute what is being taught, you got the forum to where you can come in and present what you have. And most people don't know why I do that, but I'm gonna tell you why I do that. It's the same as back in biblical times, where same as Yahweh Shai. He said, you follow me as I follow. Okay, you follow him. And what do that mean? When they present teachings to the people, it always had to be an open forum. They teach it, people listen. If you found something against it, then they can show you otherwise. Why you think he would do teachings? 1 second.
Zip this up.
Yeah, 1 second. I'm sorry. My wife want me to zip up her dress, and 1 second. 1 second. Hold on. Yeah, here, come up. No, come up. No, you should have said something. You just walking on there.
Because I thought you were just.
Yeah, that's what. No. Okay. Okay.
Is it on?
Yeah, it's all the way up. Sorry, you guys. I had to zip up my wife, and she getting ready to come on screen to YouTube and show everybody. But everything's good. Everything's good. Now, now it kind of threw me off. But the thing is I always leave that forum open for them to where they can come in and to where you can always challenge what's going on. Because what we have to seek is truth. Always seek truth. If we're going to seek truth, you have to give that openness to where they can come in later to if they see something different. So this is part of the problem, but for some reason, people choose not to come up. So this become a big issue, and I know this is going to be a bigger issue because I know many of them teaches from the Book of Jubilees, which is a completely false book, and that's why we're attacking those books. And I'm not only attacking the books. What I want the people to also understand is the same thing with the Watchmen, the same thing with GOCC with Carriage, them, and the same thing which I'm gonna be going after Dow, same thing. I'm not going after them per se, not after the person. What I'm doing, I'm attacking their doctrine. So I'm not attacking them per se. So to say that I have an issue with the personality and all that, with the Watchman, I don't know him. But with the doctrine that he's teaching to my people, that's why I have an issue. That's what the issue is. So for him per se, it's not him. It's the doctrine that he's teaching. That's the problem. Same thing with Ricardum with GOCC. Same thing with Dow now, which I'm gonna be going into those extra women. I'm gonna go into that also. Why? Because they teaching doctrines that's not real. So I will be dealing with that. Now, people sitting there saying, who do he think he is, this and that? Okay, who do they think they are teaching you a doctrine? And then they gonna get you to believe it. Because many of us just waking up and many of us just coming out of false doctrine. And then the first thing you're going to do, you're going to gravitate to people who look just like you. And then when they start pumping you stuff that don't make no sense, and then they make it make sense to you because they're going to use the sense of reason with you. And the Most High always tells you, do not lean onto your own understanding. You have to lean into his, what's in the Bible. You lean onto his, you'll never go false. So what we do at King James Bible University, I teach you to where you be strong on your own in the Bible. You know, and as many people said before, I know we got that prophet, they call themselves Prophet G Dash, Prophet G Dash. Okay, I know YouTube removed him. So he got removed, and he's saying he was pumping you know, a lot of truth about different stuff and what went on with him. However, you know, they tore down his site, and the site is actually no longer up. Now you have to put up another one to where he's building up. And I believe that brother had 40,000 people subscribed to him. But they do that to tear you down. But I know he put out, I think, something about the LGBT. I might be saying it wrong. I know he put something out about them that they said he did, and they removed his channel. But what we got to remember is this: when you fall in yourself under donations and stuff like that, and some people fall under 501c3s, but if you're taking donations and you're using that platform as a donation, they're going to use that same platform to regulate you. This is the problem. Because you have people who say, well, I'm not a 501c3, but I'm going to still take donations. Okay, you taking donations, so you falling under still the umbrella of 501c3. That's the problem. That's why we said here, you don't see, we don't do that. Why? Because he tells me, and what I already knew what was up at the beginning, to where to teach the word is for free. That's it. That's a bottom line deal. I'm not to seek extra money to teach you. I teach you for free. He say, he freely give, he freely receive. That's what he does. Then you have people against talking about we put out books. Okay, you got to buy yourself a Bible. If you don't buy a Bible, then what's your problem? That's your problem, not mine. Because you're going to get a Bible, but nowhere in the world we're going to do Bibles and then just give them to you, to where then we're put in a bad position. And then the only thing you'll say is, well, nobody told you to do that. So we don't get caught in silliness. But then with the books that we put out, and the time that I wrote them is based on what I do as a profession. I'm a herborist. So what I did, I put in all the precepts, and these are all foundational precepts with the affiliations in them. So when you read the book, you can understand the book. People who don't want it, don't buy it. People who want it, purchase it. But then people tried to find that was a big issue there, and some people had an issue with it. Same thing I tell you. I work for him. I don't work for anyone else. So if people have a problem with it, channel goes up, channel goes down. You can move forward, you can move on. That's the way I see everything. Because what we do, we're going to push the truth, and it's going to continually move. So if you believe that people can sit there and run off of donations, and saying right now you have people sitting there and they have pressure on their donations, which is wrong. And if they pressure on them, then that's letting you know they depended on that, and that your donations then became a dependency from them, and they need what you have. So same thing as we setting up King James Bible University Precept Mastery. They doing a lot of changes in the back for the university in the back, and which costs money. You don't see anything where we're asking you for anything, and it costs money. And some of it I put up myself, costs money. But the same thing, you don't see me asking you for anything. Why? Because the platform that we need to be set up, we just need to make sure it's protected. And as the Most High leads us, we need to make sure there's certain things that's protected in certain arenas to keep from other people. So we make sure that we can set those up and those are there. But who provides? He do. The Most High provides. We leaning towards it. Okay, he'll make provisions for us to where this is what you need. I'm gonna make sure you have it. I don't have to ask you guys for anything. And that's what we don't do. We don't ask you for anything. So we're able to do those, what we do. So a lot of stuff we moving over to BMO, which then also we have which I was going to talk about later, but I probably go more in depth into it on the class coming up at 9, where I might go more in depth into it, where you're going to see some of the teachings, the weekly scripture readings and the studies in the like the Romans, and then we're going to get into Galatians and a lot of different things. A lot of those going to move only behind KJBU Precept Mastery. They're only going to be there. Over on YouTube, you'll still get the every Sabbath day teachings, and then you'll get snippets on what we're doing back at KJBU. That do it cost you to go back there? Anybody will tell you who's back there now. Don't cost you a dime. But that's where we're moving everything. Why? Because it's a lot of things that's going on within certain channels and going on within certain platforms, to where we got to remember what these platforms are. Meaning what? Okay, we know YouTube is a free platform. It's free. So they have the right, and we have to understand it. They have the right to govern it the way that they see fit. This is the problem that most of us have, and that most of us don't want to look at on what's happening. They have that right to govern it how they see fit. And if it don't fit their platforms and they have a right to make their adjustments. Why? It's free. It's the quality, as far as the service wise, as far as the streaming to people and all this. They're giving you some of the most high quality tools. That's bar none. And now, like, I use certain tools to where I can access to them and do that. But they're tool sets that they provide to you to make sure you can get the highest quality available is bar none. But you got to remember, it's free. So if they're making it free to you, they also have the right to govern it how they want to. That's what most people miss. But when you're paying for a service, now you're paying for what you want in the way that you want it. You're not going to be governed. That's why we're moving a lot of stuff. That's why we're doing what we're doing. And I told you, we've been in the works for doing that for a little bit over a year. And we pretty much right at the tail end of it, we got a lot of stuff going. So many people will sit there and they want to come on YouTube and they trash YouTube, but then we're also making a separation because we have a lot of false doctrine over here, which we're going to be dealing with a lot of that during the week. And people still want to sit there and still try to join all of them and lump them as one. And we're not all one, because some of them push false doctrine. And I'm not one to sit there to be tied to someone else's that pushes false doctrine, because they will still lump you with they'll still try to lump you with your IUICs and your GMSs and all these people, and they're still trying to lump you with your dials and your GOCCs. They're still trying to lump you with them, and we have nothing to do with it. Same I tell people, never been in camp, never had nothing to do with a camp, but that doesn't matter. We all look the same, so they will still lump you with them. Because certain things, we're going to come out the same books. They're going to come out the King James Bible with the Apocrypha. The only difference is some of them are going to come into other books, but then they still going to use the main foundation book that you use. So they're going to lump you with them. So this is the problem. So we're making a separation, and we've been planning this separation, and that's what we're doing. So That's the thing. And as I said, as they have in there, you'll see the other one going to come up in a little bit that I still don't see the guy coming in there. So what I'm gonna do is get ready, and then I'm gonna be in back of the class. So, and get ready for Romans. So if you guys want to come back there, I'll be back there, ask questions. And basically what I do that for is the same thing when you're getting ready for school. Sometime the teacher be in there, you can come up, ask questions, or just shoot the breeze. Basically what happens. So I'm gonna give them about another 7 minutes, and then I'm gonna head out, but we're gonna always be ready, waiting on him to come. So the same thing is, you know, you got the same 2 thumbs down, that's fine. However, that shows you the likeness and most people, the likeness and the intelligence that they have, because they refuse to defend what they have. So that shows you who they are. But most people still sit there and believe that these people is everything, and they're not. So with that, I'm asking anybody have any questions, but we don't see any there. So we don't see anyone coming out, which this is another issue that we actually see. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up and get ready for the other side. And then if that same thing, like I said with Paul Brassfield, you know, technically you just was a waste of sperm, technically what you was. And I'm not saying that to where I'm saying that to you. I'm saying in its full entirety. He was just a waste of sperm to come into creation, technically what it is. That's what I'm saying. Because it's people like you that would try to keep people in false doctrine. So technically you was a waste of sperm. That's all it is. So if you want to talk, I'm always to be here. So that's the main thing. So with that, we're gonna go off, and I'll be in the back on the other side. You have to go in through the other one. So you'll see that go up in a second, and then you can click on it, and then you can come in the back. So give me about 5 minutes, and then you'll be able to see that back there. So see you guys in a little bit, and then class will still be at 9 o'clock, which you'll see that show in 1 minute. So until then, see you guys in a little bit. Shalom.